Hello, my name is Brennan Mayer, and this is Plastic Addict Talks, a series of interviews we're doing with creators from all over to discuss their current projects and what we can expect from them in the future. Today we're being joined by Loji, an electronic music duo based out of Toronto. Loji is Marco Cindric and Sam Earl. And today we are talking about Holy Water, a new single just released through an interesting platform called Loji Forest. So first of all, hi, how are you both doing today?
Hey, we're great.
We're great. Yeah, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
Of course, appreciate you coming on. First of all, can I ask you both to explain to me what is Loji Forest?
Since we formed and then kind of started writing songs, we've always been envisioning like environments and spaces while listening and writing our music. So there's always been kind of a spatial aspect. We're both kind of like casual gamers as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Casual, hardcore, I don't know. So it's kind of always been a dream of ours to try to integrate those two art forms. And this was that, finally culminating many years later.
Definitely like a huge aspect of this was the time that lockdown gave me, plus Sturb coming in and helping me like have this free time. So shout out to that. But I agree, kind of like everything from the genesis of the project to now has kind of always had a bit of like a physical environmental feeling. We used to kind of just talk about it in a very conceptual way. So Loji Forest was kind of like a natural progression to that idea.
Yeah, no, it seems like something that from posts and stuff that you've been thinking about doing for a long time. And yeah, lockdown has allowed a lot of us to really focus in on things we wanted to do, but maybe not have the time to do. It leads me to my next question. Aside from time and lockdown, what made Holy Water the single that you decided to finally take this idea out on?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a good question. I think it's a combination of, well, basically, we started structuring, we've released a bunch of singles. We make songs, get really excited about them, and then like release them in a kind of rapid fire move. But we have like a back catalog of material that we've been meaning to release and haven't. And Holy Water stood out as a really good opener.
We wanted it to be sort of a structural introduction to what would eventually be the EP that we're releasing later this month. So that was kind of a big part of choosing that as the kind of like welcoming song in this project.
In terms of the spatial aspect of our songs, Holy Water for me has always been, I think there's even lyrics in the song that like attest to this directly, but it's always been, the vibe is like, come to this forest, I'll meet you in this forest, by a lake. And so Loji Forest is perhaps that forest, some kind of embodiment of that idea.
Yeah, no, actually, it's funny. You answered kind of what my third question was, which was the idea that it is a dance song. And instead of taking us to, say, a club or a, crowded venue, we're in this dark, spooky forest. I know it does speak to what some of the lyrics are about and the general tone of the song. But I also wondered if, the dark forest, the sacred geometry inspired pyramids and things like that, if all of that stuff had to do specifically with the song, or if it leaned more to what's going on right now and this desire to kind of either go back to nature or reflect the kind of weird in the woods state that we're all in. But I guess you kind of answered that a bit. So I guess I'll just ask, what's the deal with the pyramids?
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I think you can probably you can attest to it a bit.
Yeah. So the pyramid mesh or object was actually came out of an idea for a show poster that we were working on. There's the Sierpinski triangle, which is like a fractal shape where there's triangles within triangles, and you can iterate infinitely to get this fractal shape. And I said, okay, let's make that 3D, which already existed, but I was like, let's code it up from scratch in Blender. And then I was also like, okay, but that's still not original enough. Let's see if I can define like a loop of like a tubular kind of shape that goes through the pyramid that also is an iterative fractal pattern. So that was the real tricky part. And then when Marco started really hunkering down in Unity and creating this natural forest space, he had the object file saved away, luckily, and imported it. And then it created this really interesting juxtaposition, we thought, between, like you said, like sacred geometrical forms and more kind of noisy natural forms. And yeah, I think that's cool. You just made me realize we're kind of cool during the quarantine, because it's like the combine guy, like the bouncer outside,
right.
the little
the cloaked figure at the pyramid. Yeah.
I've always, and the way you make the actual track appear when you get close to him in a muffled way, it feels like he's the bouncer of some kind of unseen club, right? The club that exists inside the sacred geometrical form. So yeah, if you can't go to the club, with sweaty human bodies, I guess we're trying to kind of
go to the club within. Yeah, go to the club. I think that there is something really kind of interesting in approaching sort of like the natural sublime from a very electronic music angle, because it's so far removed from sounds that we can understand physically. Like, at least when you're strumming a guitar, there's like a very clear understanding, like, okay, these strings are vibrating, echoing in this body of this guitar, and it makes this sound. But with synths, you have this potential to kind of make the sounds sound like they're coming from like inside your head and echoing around, and it is sort of this like internal external push and pull that I think is really interesting. There's a lot of like magic from that, I think.
Yeah, no, that speaks to a lot of what attracts me to synthesizers as well, right? It's like a direct line. You guys are with Safe Sounds and putting stuff out with them, and I wanted to ask what we can expect coming forward. You mentioned before collecting all these tracks from all over, building the EP out of that, and trying to bring odds and ends together. Will that be the main focus of this EP, and should we expect more virtual experiences like Loji Forest?
I think definitely.
I would hope. Fingers crossed. I mean, once we've got this EP out, yeah, and we're gonna have some free kind of artistic space, I think, in our minds as Loji, and so we'll get back to creating new stuff. But I think once I heard our song or our stems playing in that virtual space, I felt like, oh, there's no going back. But we definitely want to find a way to work that in and make it accessible as well. But yeah, we're going to keep writing.
And I also really like how just touching on the kind of collection of these songs that we've had kind of brewing for a while. The EP is actually called Gather, which is kind of a nice testament to that. And it's meant to be sort of an extension of our earlier singles, because the last single we released on its own was called Hunt. So we're kind of doing this sort of origin story of this ecosystem once again, and trying to translate it into something that people can listen to and download, and also sometimes play, as in the case of Loji Forest.
Well, that's really exciting, and Loji Forest is still available for people to play at safesound.ca, and the single Holy Water is available through Bandcamp. I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Us.
Yeah,
that's been a pleasure.
Lovely. Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in to this episode of Plastic Addict Talks. Have a good one.